a 2001 Harley-Davidson Fat Boy, and the air filter is underneath this cover right here. And for most V-twins, that air filter is going to be in the same place, although the cover may take on a different shape. And there are going to be different ways to access the cover. This is pretty easy. It's just a flathead screwdriver, so we'll remove this cover. Taking out our screw here. There's only one screw on this Harley that holds on the air filter cover. Take off your cover, make sure you put it on a relatively soft surface so that it doesn't accidentally scratch the chromes. Under the cover there are actually 3 Allen bolts that hold in this filter, and they take a 5/32 inch Allen, and if they're being ornery, I'll use a socket to get a little bit of extra leverage with a 1/4 inch or ratchet with a 1/4 inch socket to put the Allen head into. It gives you some more leverage to crack these bolts loose, and then once I do crack it loose, I can go back to the regular handheld screwdriver for additional speed. We got our bolts removed. I'm going to take off this filter. Comes with this. Put the bolts off to the side, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean it. So now this filter is a reusable filter, which I prefer. If you have a paper filter, your job's very easy. You just swap out the filter, discard the old one, put the bolts back the way we had them, and you're done. However, the reusable filter, it's a little bit more of a process, and I typically like to combine this with a different job because there's some waiting time in between time. So with that said, you buy the filter maintenance kit, and this is a K&N. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean the filter. And what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to a kind of an outside area that we don't care about getting dirty. And we're actually going to spray both sides of the filter with the cleaner. And these kits are not that expensive, so I definitely like to apply the cleaner liberally to the filter. And again, the cleaner goes on both sides. This has taken us a little bit longer because, like many spray bottles that you're given, not just K&N, but this K&N spray bottle isn't worth a limp dick, because if you see it, nothing's coming out of it, right? So we're having to do this very tediously. One thing that will help you, if you look at the beginning, there's a indicator pleat here, so you know when you've gone around full circle. So now that we've basically sprayed our cleaner on both sides, we're going to let it somewhere to sit. We want to let it dry out, maybe around 10 minutes, but you don't want to let it dry completely. So you want it to be somewhat dry, but a little bit of moisture still on it. We'll just leave it here for the time being. Wait a couple minutes, good time to crack open a beer. Our filter is kind of dry, not completely dry, and we let it dry naturally, not with compressed air, because if you introduce compressed air, it may be too much force and you could fray the fibers and then compromise the effectiveness of the filter. Same concept here. We're going to rinse the filter from the inside to the outside, not using any sort of power wash or anything like that, because again, you don't want to take a chance spraying or destroying the fibers. Now, it's very important that we go from the inside, look how dirty that is, to the outside, because the air and the dirt that comes with it is coming from the outside to the inside in that direction. So we don't want to help it go into the filter, we want to get it out of the filter. And that's why it's important when you wash, again, no power washing or any sort of power with the water, but it's important to go from the inside to the outside, and any sink will do. And once our water turns a little bit cleaner, it's still pretty dark, then we'll be good with our wash. And the next step will be to let it dry naturally again. No compressed air for the reasons stated earlier. And now we will let it dry completely, but again, let it dry naturally. Our filter has now dried out naturally. We're gonna spray oil around all the outside pleats of the filter. Not spray it from the inside, because remember, the inside, the air is going into your engine, and you don't want the oil into the engine, obviously. So we're just gonna do each individual pleat like this. And it's a bit of a process. And I want you to note the reddish purplish color of the oil. Because what we're going to do is we're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes to let it dry out. And then after about 10 minutes, we're going to flip it, because gravity will move the oil downwards, obviously, and as it kind of semi-dries, then we'll flip it after about 10 minutes. Gravity will move it the other way, and then we'll have a nice oiled, evenly oiled filter. And after both the flips, if we do notice any parts that are not sort of pinkish purplish, that means it didn't get hit by the oil. I usually oil it pretty good, and I've never had to respray it. But if you do, that would be the time to respray it. And then we're going to go ahead and put it back on and take her out for a ride. Our filter seems pretty dry, so we wiped it out as well. And let's go ahead and put it back on. Now we got our last bolt in here. So these are tight. And then all we got to do is put in our air filter cover with a regular flathead, and we'll be good to go. Screw is back on, and we're ready to ride.